Today on Cooking for Wellness, we're getting into the holiday spirit and making some delicious plant-based appetizers. So stick around and let's get started. Welcome to another episode of Cooking for Wellness at NYU Langone Health. I'm Chef Jeffrey Held. And since we are headed into the busy holiday season, we're gonna make some healthy and delicious appetizers that are great for celebrating and entertaining guests. These are all plant-based and really fun to make. Okay, let's get started on our Eggplant Baba Ghanoush. So the first thing we're gonna do is we're gonna take a fork and we're just gonna poke holes all over the eggplant. This will allow some of the water moisture to escape while we cook. We are fire roasting today, which means we're gonna place the eggplant directly over an open gas flame. If you don't have a gas stove at home, you could also just put it on a baking sheet and roast it in the oven pretty much about as high as your oven will go, 450, 475. The idea is to get as much charring as you possibly can on the outside. I'm gonna add those right to the flame. Okay, so as you can see, I charred the outside all the way around, 360 degrees around. They stood probably about 5 minutes on each side, right on that flame, and they look like they're all burnt, but you can see, you can just kind of peel it off with your hand, and don't worry about leaving a little bit of the skin on. If you leave it warm, it actually a little bit easier to peel. So we're doing this over a colander within a bowl to just make sure all that excess moisture drains off. So by charring and roasting like this gives it such an intense, smoky flavor. You really can't replicate it any other way. Really, really delicious. We're gonna add the eggplant. We're gonna add a 1/4 cup of tahini paste, toasted sesame seeds. We have just a couple cloves of fresh garlic I just crushed. I have the zest of 1 lemon, as well as the juice of 1 lemon. Eggplants are amazing. They are high in fiber, vitamins and minerals, and they're also very, very low in calories. We have a teaspoon of sumac, and we have a teaspoon of Aleppo pepper. And lastly, we're gonna add probably about 2 to 3 tablespoons of extra virgin olive oil, but I like to do that while I'm blending. So a lot of people use a fork or just kind of break it up and leave it on the chunkier. I like to have it a little bit smoother. Add a little bit of a black pepper, a little bit of salt. Yeah, it's amazing how creamy and delicious you can get the eggplant from the roasting process. Okay, so we're good to go on the Baba Ghanoush. We're gonna plate later when we're ready to go. So the next thing we made was some holiday spice nuts. We took pecans, almonds, and walnuts, took some fresh rosemary, and I tried to make them as low fat and low sodium as I could. So I used I took 2 egg whites, some smoked paprika and maple syrup, and just a little bit of salt. And we tossed them, we just cooked them at 325 degrees for just about 20 minutes. They came out pretty delicious. The next thing we made is a really delicious butternut squash soup. This is one of the most simple and easy soups you can make. Number one, it's a pureed soup, so it's very easy to cover up any of your mistakes. You simply start by sweating your onions, carrots, and celery. You let them get soft. You add the garlic and the squash, large chunks of squash. Some people are a little bit anxious about butternut squash, but it's pretty simple. They're very heavy and sturdy. Just make sure you have a sharp knife. You feel good and stable on the board. Take it off at both ends. Take off the top part that's usually a little bit thinner than the seed section, just because you want to have uniform pieces. Just run your knife down gently and carefully all the way around. And I think the key is just to take your time and just remain as comfortable as you can. For the soup, you really only need large chunks. The bottom section's a little bit different, only because it does have the seeds. I'll show you. So you just remove the outer peel, cut it right in half, and then just use a spoon to just kind of hollow out the seeds. Once again, chunks. Goes in the pot. Vegetable broth comes up to a boil, and you just simmer till it's soft. Once that's nice and soft and cooked, you process that the same way. Blender, we use the handheld blender. You can transfer it to any countertop blender. We finished the soup with a little bit of honey and some sherry vinegar. Adds a little brightness, a little acidity. You could use red wine vinegar, or maybe even a little lemon juice. We like to garnish this with toasted pumpkin seeds, and since we're completely plant-based today, we're using a coconut cream as a little bit of drizzle on top. So the great thing about this soup is that it's colorful, bright, and delicious, and it's a great starter for a meal, and I like it actually as like an hors d'oeuvre or appetizer. It's very festive. People love it. Little small soup. Very nice. Okay, so the next thing is a little bit more ambitious. So now we're gonna make our mushroom bacon wrapped figs with toasted pistachios and pomegranate molasses. The first thing we're gonna do is we're gonna remove the gills from the mushroom. Just take a spoon and just pull out very gently. So we made a marinade with soy sauce, maple syrup, smoked paprika, and a little bit of avocado oil. We're trying our very best to kind of mimic the flavors of a bacon cure and adapt it to a plant-based application. So I basically just dunked the mushroom in the marinade, brushed it really well so those flavors will seep in, really season it up well. And then we cooked this at 325 degrees for about 30 minutes. What we did want to do is check it about every 10 to 15 and just turn it over. Flip the mushrooms. We're trying to get moisture to evaporate. Into the oven they go. So once the mushrooms came out of the oven, they ended up taking about 35 minutes. I sliced them nice and thin, like as close as bacon-esque as I could. They taste pretty good. They're very flavorful. I think they're pretty delicious. So we have our fresh figs. We have some toasted pistachio nuts. And we're just gonna take the fig, just wrap it around and skewer right through with a little bamboo toothpick. And then we're ready to garnish. We're gonna garnish with the toasted nuts and the pomegranate molasses. Pomegranate molasses is one of my favorites. Deeply complex, sweet, bitter, almost tannic. Really delicious. So I'm just gonna drizzle that on, and then I'm gonna add some toasted pistachios right to the top, and it'll stick with the molasses. Okay, our soup is ready to go. Have these nice little ceramic bowls. Most people use like a creme fraiche or some kind of dairy cream. We have a little coconut milk instead. Some toasted pumpkin seeds. For the Baba Ghanoush, just add it to a bowl. I like to finish it with a little bit of more olive oil on top. We also have some toasted pine nuts. Add a little bit of crunch and nuttiness. Throw some little rosemary in there. Smells wonderful. We're good to go. We got some really delicious winter vegetables to go with it. Some treviso, it's a bitter winter green, endive, watermelon radishes, little baby carrots, and we just grilled off some naan bread as well. There you have it, delicious plant-based holiday appetizers that your guests will love. Check out more episodes on our healthy lifestyle playlist and have a wonderful holiday season.